am announcing my candidacy to be the next governor for the great state of South Carolina.
South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson is throwing his hat in the race for governor, making the announcement during an event in Lexington, his hometown near Columbia, last night. And today he is joining us to talk about his bid for the Republican nomination for governor of South Carolina. A.G. Wilson, thank you so much for being here with us in person. The first interview since announcing that you're running now for governor, so I appreciate that. But my question for you is, why governor?
First off, I have enjoyed serving as Attorney General over the last several years, last 14 years to be exact, and I have seen so many things in government that I was able to address from my role as Attorney General. But from that vantage point, I was able to see a lot of other issues going on in South Carolina that the Attorney General wasn't directly tasked with dealing with. And I know that Governor McMaster, who I think has been a phenomenal steward of our state for the last going on 10 years, has done a great job. He's term limited, and I'm like, I have the leadership capability, the skill set to be able to address some of these issues moving forward. And so I didn't want to live with any regrets. I knew I would regret not trying, and I believe that I could really move our state forward, and that's why I'm running, because I love our state and I think we can really advance it to the next level. And
you've done so much for the state of South Carolina. So you were first elected as South Carolina Attorney General in 2010. You served in the Army National Guard for nearly 30 years, which includes a combat tour in Iraq, and you have the rank of colonel. For those who don't know your record, what do people need to know about you and the changes that you really want to see happening to move South Carolina forward?
Well, first, we've had such great success as Attorney General, whether it's reforming our domestic violence laws or DUI laws, whether it's advocating to move the backlog of violent criminal cases, growing the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, establishing the State Human Trafficking Task Force, revolutionizing and reforming how we do victim services. We've done so much, but when I look at South Carolina broadly, there's so much more we could do at a more wholesale way. For instance, South Carolina is lagging behind other states in the Southeast with our competitive advantage to say the income tax. There are 3 states in the Southeast that have no income tax, another 5 or 6 states that are moving to 0% income tax. We have the highest income tax in the Southeast, and for us to be competitive, we have to eliminate our income tax. Everyone's talking about DOGE right now at the federal level. I was thinking about this before I'd ever heard the term DOGE, but as the Attorney General, I have seen so much wasteful and fraudulent and abusive practices in local governments across the state that don't rise to a criminal level. And what I really want to do is I want to beef up our Inspector General's office. I want to leverage AI platforms to go after fraud, waste, and abuse and return all that money to the core functions of government. I think there's a lot of opportunity to reform our education system to address education.
Right, because South Carolina ranks in the lowest when you look. And as governor, my question for you is, how do you plan to be able to turn things around, especially when South Carolina is one of the first to be able to have vouchers, you know, for people to be able to attend private schools? How do we change this whole system?
Well, first on the front end, I want to broaden the aperture. I want to broaden the ability for families to be able to get their kids into school earlier so children can have their reading comprehension and math scores up before they hit the 3rd grade. Invest in them when they're really young, right? And then that changes the trajectory for them for education. On the back end, we have a dual enrollment program in South Carolina, but it pales in comparison to what North Carolina is doing. That would allow students to try to knock out up to 2 years of college while they're in high school. So some kids can graduate with half of college knocked out. Think of the affordability to families. Also, children or kids who don't want to go to a 4-year degree but want to get a certification like being a nurse tech or rad tech, med tech, or a welder. They could have that certification, or at least all their general education requirements for an associate's degree, gone before they even graduate high school. We need to open up the doors for them. Technical college presidents have told me that they are turning away 4,000 to 5,000 applicants to tech schools every year for lack of seats. And think of what we could do for employment workforce if we could open that up. These are just some of the areas that I'm going to focus on.
Focus on as governor. All right, so just to kind of get this out there, when you look at nobody else is in this race right now. You were the first to be able to announce, but you have also repeatedly been hit with attacks from U.S. Representative Nancy Mace, who is also, from what I understand, considering a run for the GOP nomination. Now, her claims are that you're not effective defending women and children or on illegal immigration. What do you say to voters out there?
First off, everything that individual has said is categorically false and wrong. It's politically motivated. I mean, I've never had a problem with that individual until it became known that I was looking at running for governor. Look, my record it stands for itself. I have the receipts. No one has invested more in reforming victim services in South Carolina than me. No one has spent more time in the courtroom and supporting people in the courtroom to go after predators and pedophiles and people who hurt women and children. I have the receipts. I have stood in the gap in the breach, and I have done nothing but support these types of issues over the last 14 years. So those people can criticize me all they want. I'm going to let my record defend itself.
When you look at your record, I got to mention this because, of course, when you're running for the top spot, your record's going to come out with everything, and I want to give you a chance to be able to get this out. You have a record of statewide service, but you've also faced scrutiny for your involvement in the State House corruption investigation. So back in 2018, you were linked to the investigation to the political consultant Richard Quinn Sr. A state grand jury report said that you impeded the investigation into Quinn. You were never charged, I want to point that out, with any wrongdoing, and voters still elected you. But now that you're going to be governor, what have you learned from that entire scandal?
Oh, first off, I never impeded anything. If people remember, I'm the one that handed the investigation off to another prosecutor to handle, because I didn't want there to be an appearance of impropriety. When you've been in office for the time that I've been in there, and you've been as high profile in some of these cases, you're going to have so many critics out there say these things about you. They're not true. Again, I'm the most criticized person in state government. I've been looked at, people file complaints against me every single day, and they all get dismissed, they all get dropped, or they all end up going nowhere because there's nothing to them. We have basically conducted ourselves with integrity and honesty as Attorney General, and I'm going to continue to do that as Governor of South Carolina. We're going to do everything we can to DOGE South Carolina. We're going to reform education. We're going to protect families. We're going to keep those things at the forefront. People are going to criticize me for every little thing that they have ever read about me, whether it's true or not, and that's okay. Rubbing is racing, but we're going to stay positive, and we're going to focus on what we're going to do for South Carolina.
Two more quick questions for you. First, I want to be able to say, let's talk about your alignment with President Trump. You have defended conservative policies and Trump initiatives during Trump's hush money trial. You even traveled there to be in court, to sit behind him, to show his support. What do you think about the president's use of the National Guard in response to the ongoing anti-ICE protests?
If you're referring to the use in California,
yes, with
first off, 29-year veteran of the National Guard. I'm a Judge Advocate General. I work at National Guard Bureau in my weekend job, not my civilian job. So this is an issue I'm very familiar with. The President obviously has the legal authority to federalize the National Guard when defending federal property, federal agents, exercising federal functions. Outside of that, those powers are reserved to the governor when the National Guard is not federalized. So the President had the right to do that. If it had been the previous president or another president doing the same thing, I would have said the same thing.
That's what I was going to ask you. If the tables were turned, if we had a Democratic president and you were governor, would you feel exactly the same way?
And it depends on the facts. Obviously, if the facts were the same as they are now, then my answer would be the same. If the president was trying to take the National Guard from the authority of the governor without color of law, without the authority to do so, I'd have a different opinion. But I try not to look at the politics. I know people don't believe that, but I try to look at things on the facts and the law and then give my opinions based on that.
One of the biggest issues right now is Medicaid. Right now, I understand that in South Carolina, we have 1/4 of the state is on Medicaid. So if the big, beautiful bill passes, what does that mean? You become governor. That's a big loss to be able to make up for. How do you plan to be able to make that system happen?
First off, I want to understand how much of our Medicaid dollars are being defrauded. I have a Medicaid recipient fraud unit and a Medicaid provider fraud unit. I want to get inside the books over at HHS here in South Carolina. I want to be able to work. I want to use advanced AI platforms. I want to be a force multiplier for the investigators and auditors out there. And I want to find out, are the Medicaid dollars actually going to the families that truly need it? Or are there people out there who are taking advantage and exploiting Medicaid to the detriment of needy families? And also, is our system that is currently in place for vetting these people, is it up to the task? Are we doing all that we can at the state level to prevent fraud from happening? Those are the first things I'm going to do when I'm governor.
So you're going to be governor, making this run. This is going to be a year of campaigning all over the state. Hopefully we're going to see you more. I know we're here on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And York County, a lot of voters in this area, a lot of time to be able to get up here, Lancaster County. Tell me, what do you think the big challenge is going to be for you as we start this next year before the primary?
First off, I love coming here. I like to remind people that when I went to Iraq, 20 years ago, I deployed with a unit out of Lancaster. You know, so I mean, basically, this community is like a home community to me. This whole area of the state is very familiar to me. I love coming up here. I have great relationships with the people. The biggest challenge to campaigning statewide is that people think South Carolina is a small state until you have to drive from Walhalla to Hilton Head, right, or from Horry County
Right.
all the way up to Inman.
Right.
I mean, it can be a very big state when you're burning up the road. So getting around to see as many people, let them get to know me, let them get to see who I am, let them just be able to ask questions, be accessible to the people. Alicia, at the end of the day, running for governor is a job interview. And the office of governor does not belong to any occupant. It belongs to the people of this state. I am running to be the trustee of that office, nothing more. And so this is a job interview for me, and the people of this state have a right to be able to ask me every question they want.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to make sure that voters are able to know?
You know, honestly, I am truly honored to serve as Attorney General. I love this state. I love serving this state as a prosecutor, as a soldier, and I really want to continue to serve this state as its chief executive officer. And I think I would do a great job. And I look forward to working with the General Assembly to basically reform and transform South Carolina into a next generation.
Well, A.G. Wilson, we appreciate you being here with us on Queen City News. Hopefully we'll have you back as this year progresses, as the primary is going to be around this time next year in South Carolina. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.